All right, let's get right into it. For decades, the big debate has always been pretty simple. Are UFOs real or not? But what if that's completely the wrong question? Today, we are digging into a really fascinating claim from our source material. The idea that our skies are actually home to two very different kinds of unidentified craft, and being able to tell them apart, well, that might just be the key to unlocking one of the biggest secrets in history. And this is the question that changes everything. It flips the entire conversation on its head, doesn't it? The source material we're looking at suggests this incredibly complex reality where, yeah, genuine extraterrestrial visitors might be real, but they're being used as the perfect cover story for a top-secret human-made fleet of unbelievably advanced craft. So, to even begin to wrap our heads around this theory, we have to start here. Something truly extraordinary is being seen, and it's being seen by incredibly credible people. We're not talking about some blurry photos or shaky cell phone videos here. We're talking about close encounters that just completely defy any normal explanation. Let's take a look at the Japan Airlines Flight 1628 case. Back in 1986, you have this seasoned 747 crew flying over Alaska, and they report being shadowed by an object they said was just massive. Their words were, like a huge battleship. And this wasn't just a story, you see. This thing was tracked on FAA radar and on military radar. It was a solid, physical, verifiable event.
But check this out. What happened next is maybe even more revealing. The official response: a total shutdown. The FAA's head of investigations at the time, a guy named John Callahan, he presents all the data, we're talking radar tapes, audio recordings, the whole shebang, to the CIA. And what did they tell him? According to the source, he was told, quote, "This meeting never happened." The message couldn't have been clearer. Make this entire thing disappear.
And look, the JAL case, it wasn't some one-off event. The source brings up other heavy hitters, like Gordon Cooper, an original Mercury 7 astronaut, a true American hero. Cooper said that back in 1957, he personally watched crystal-clear film of a seamless, saucer-shaped craft landing on a dry lake bed. And he stuck to that story for his entire life. So the point here is crucial. You have highly trained observers seeing technology that was light years ahead of anything we supposedly had. So, if these incredible, perfectly seamless craft are one piece of the puzzle, what's the other? Well, this is where the source's claim gets really wild. It introduces the idea of a second, completely separate fleet, one that wasn't built by aliens, but by us. Now, most of you have probably heard of the 2004 Nimitz encounter, right? The famous Tic Tac incident. You have some of the best pilots in the world in the most advanced fighter jets, and they're completely baffled by this object that's pulling off moves that seem to defy the laws of physics. The official line? It was a true, unidentified aerial phenomenon. But then comes the bombshell from our source material, directly contradicting the pilot who said no man-made object could do that. The source claims he's incorrect. This is man-made. This is from the Lockheed Skunk Works. Just wow. A flat-out contradiction. And this just lays out the two competing realities perfectly. You've got the official story on one side. It's something totally unknown from who knows where. But on the other side, you have the source claiming it's a known player in the black budget world, a human-built craft. And get this, one witness even reported seeing an identical object being loaded onto a plane way back in 1991. And this secret human fleet, according to the source, wasn't just testing Tic Tacs. It connects them to other huge cases, like the Hudson Valley sightings in the 80s. I mean, thousands of people saw these enormous boomerang and triangular craft just floating silently overhead, making this very distinct, low transformer hum. The source says, nope, not ET. Those were our alien reproduction vehicles, or ARVs, being tested right over our heads. Okay, so if this source is onto something here, and there really are two types of craft, one ET, one of ours, it just begs the biggest question of all. Why? Why would anyone create such a massive, complicated, multi-layered deception? Well, according to the source, the answer has everything to do with what the real extraterrestrials actually care about. So let's just ask it straight up. If there really is an ET presence out there, what's the one thing about us, about humanity, that keeps getting their attention and frankly seems to worry them? The answer is simple, and it's pretty chilling. It's our nuclear weapons. The source material claims this has been the single biggest reason for their interactions with us for more than 70 years. And when you look back at the history through this lens, a really clear pattern starts to show up.
The source alleges this direct line of interest, starting with a supposed meeting to warn President Eisenhower about nukes. Then you have sightings over nuclear aircraft carriers like the USS FDR, and of course, the famous landing at RAF Bentwaters, a base that was secretly and illegally storing American nukes. The connection is just there. Even our own alleged secret craft fit in, with the source claiming the object in the famous Cash-Landrum case had a dangerously malfunctioning nuclear reactor. The message that was supposedly delivered at Bentwaters is maybe the most mind-blowing part of all this. According to testimony in the source, the beings communicated that they were actually our descendants from 500,000 years in the future, and that our messing around with nuclear weapons was a threat to their own existence. The stakes, they said, weren't just global, they were temporal. Our future was threatening their present. Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's define the key term here. When the source talks about the secret human fleet, it calls them alien reproduction vehicles, or ARVs. The idea is that these are craft built by humans, flown by humans, but created by studying and copying crashed or retrieved ET technology. This is the hardware supposedly behind this whole grand deception. So, how do we tie this all together? If this theory actually holds any water, how on earth is anyone supposed to tell the difference between these two types of craft? Well, this is where the explainer gives us a really practical tool. It's kind of like a field guide to help figure out what we might be looking at up there. And this is the real takeaway. The whole point isn't about belief anymore. It's about discernment. The source totally reframes the problem. It's not a simple yes or no question anymore. It's a much more complicated challenge. Can you spot the difference? First up, let's look at the checklist for the alleged extraterrestrial craft. The word that comes to mind is perfection. They're described as being perfectly seamless, like they were made from a single mold of metal. No rivets, no panels, nothing. They can even look translucent or like polished black glass. And their abilities are just off the charts, things like shapeshifting or even just dematerializing.
Now, in stark contrast, you have the man-made ARVs. And while they're obviously incredibly advanced, they still show the telltale signs of being built by human hands. You can see seams, welds, panels. They've got external parts like antennas. They often give off that low electrical transformer hum. And they tend to show up in shapes that have become almost familiar to us now, like those huge triangles and boomerangs.
Which really just leaves us with this one big, lingering question. If this dual reality is true, the next time you look up and see something you just can't explain, you have to ask yourself, are you seeing a visitor from another world? Or are you seeing a secret from our own? Who is showing us what? And what, at the end of the day, is the real reason for the show?